Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Your host, Tracy Hayes. My guest today is the broker and co-owner of the number 39 of the fastest 50 growing companies in Jacksonville in 2022, recognized by Jack's Business Journal. They made this list now 3 years in a row.
Yep.
Her brokerage is opening a new office November 5th. She's very excited about it, putting furniture together last night and having a huge grand opening party that all must attend. So we're going to definitely post those highlights on our Facebook. Her faith is very much part of her business. She is dedicated to helping people in real estate sales and property management while upholding the highest level of integrity. Let's welcome Jennifer Hendry of CrossView Realty to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer, coming on. I know I had Steven on, I think about a month or so ago, and really had a great conversation with him and what you guys are doing and growing. And I think we need to get out and share with everybody what's going on at CrossView and why are more and more agents joining your team.
Yeah, so I have one correction.
Okay.
I'm not the co-owner. I actually own it. I bought my business partner out 3 years ago.
Okay. I saw that somewhere, so we'll have to get that corrected somewhere on your social media.
But
that might have been on the LinkedIn we were talking about prior to the show.
But my husband does work with me, so I guess I can fall with the co-owner with him.
Okay. All right. We'll go that way. That is awesome.
Shout out.
That's great news. And we'll lead as we go through your story and get in there and your why. So we're going to dig in a little bit into that. But what I really like to get out to everyone in listening, obviously agents are listening all the time to the show. Hopefully a new agent, or maybe an agent who's just hit a lid somewhere and they're looking to somewhere where they're getting that added value. Again, some of the stuff we were talking about pre-show, adding value to the agents, and get a little bit about you and learn about you and CrossView today. So, so as always, we're going to kick it off with where are you from?
I was actually born in Jacksonville, which is not super common. My parents divorced when I was about 2.5, and I moved to Tallahassee with my mom. My dad always lived here. If you're familiar with Carol's Meat Shop in town, my family owned those. And my cousin actually still owns one off University.
Oh, cool.
Or actually University and then Old St. Augustine. So, and came back here for college and just kind of, like I said, always been really the I-10, Tallahassee and Jacksonville.
Excellent. Now, I read on there, obviously I know what UNF is. What is the Maclay School?
Maclay. So it's
did I spell that right? Is it Macley or
Lay?
LA? Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I mistyped it on my notes.
So it's kind of actually the equivalent to Bowles in Tallahassee. They don't board, but when Jacksonville got evacuated, I forget which hurricane it was, the Bowles boarding kids actually came to our school in Tallahassee and stayed in our gym. So the head of schools for both are pretty close, but that's the easiest equivalent that I can put it towards.
Okay. So you end up going to UNF to get your undergraduate degree. I mean, at that time, what was your, finance was your major. Mm-hmm. What was your vision at that time of what Jennifer was going to do for her career?
I had no idea. My dad was a regional vice president for Primerica, which was part of Citigroup. And so at 19, I took all those tests. I had a life, health, variable annuities, prepaid legal. I had all those licenses. I actually had a mortgage broker's license for a little while until they changed the laws where you had to take the extra test,
right.
That's when I decided not to keep that one. I was like, no, thank you. So because I was already in that world, I had a Series 6 and 63 license going into college, basically.
Oh,
and
interesting.
So I figured investment finance would be the easiest route, and it was. Got in trouble with several professors because I knew more than they did, because I actually had the license, and I'm like, no, this is wrong. I just took that state test like less than a year ago.
Oh, wow.
So that was, I wanted to get in and out as fast as possible.
Interesting. I mean, what did you, like, you're like 20 years old and you took the test?
I was, yeah, like 19 and 20 was the 2 years I took pretty much everything.
I mean, what kind of prep there's a lot of studying involved in that test, isn't there? I mean, it's not something, the mortgage test, for me, when Florida started requiring that test, I'd already been in the business numerous years, so the lingo and everything, I already knew that. So I didn't have to study the basics. It was more like when the renewal was and how much the renewal was for the state of Florida, right?
Right.
Real important stuff. But for the Series 7 and stuff, I mean, that takes that takes some time in studying, doesn't it? I mean, it's not.
It does. I'm just weird. That's probably the best way I can put it.
Or you have one of those people just absorbs it. You have a photographic type memory. It just clicks with you.
And I wasn't a partier. I had nothing better to do than, I was school and then work and whatever else I needed to do. I didn't really have a social life. I still don't. I love my homebody. But yeah, I mean, when you don't have anything else to distract yourself, why not grow and learn and do something with it?
So I know eventually you do work for several large builders in their market. But I mean, so you have this degree in finance, you have the licenses. Do you actually go into that field?
Yeah, so I was actually part of Primerica for a while. What I didn't care for it was I wasn't about the recruiting aspect of it. I really liked helping people. It's actually very much so a core value of mine. The getting out of debt, buy term, invest the difference. I mean, all of those things are a lot of who I am. And so I did it for a while, but it wasn't anything. I didn't want to be across the table for somebody and have to make a sale so I could pay a mortgage or so I could eat. And so I only did it on the side. And with the thought of, well, let's see where it goes. When I was in college, I ended up with Pulte as an intern because they needed somebody Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I went to college Monday through Thursday. Oh. And they paid the most per hour. So I was like, this is a no-brainer. And I sat in the model, and I was the greeter. Wolf Creek, actually, on Beach Boulevard was my first location.
Oh, cool.
Back when they were building that. And so I just happened to get into it only because it paid the most, and I never thought it would actually turn into a career for me.
I don't think the builders do that anymore. When I was in Northern Virginia for most of the 90s, that was a common thing to have that greeter, again, a college student, that type of person to come in and at least greet or during the slow times to be there. Are any of the builders doing that anymore, at least locally? Not
that I'm aware of and haven't for years. I mean, back then you got to realize that was in 2005. So, right. I mean, it was crazy. So it was to the point where the person greeting was keeping everybody in the model office, right, while the salespeople were writing contracts. And as soon as one would free up, I would find the person that was next in line, connect them with that salesperson, and that was essentially my job.
It's slowed down a little bit now, but last year, having some of those greeters, because I know exactly where you're from. When you're in retail, in another life, 20 years plus ago. Actually, I've just short of 20 years right at the moment because I've been in this business. I went from the retail stores, but having those greeters is so important. And when someone walks in the door, we kind of laugh now, like you walk into Firehouse Subs and everyone says, "Hey, how you doing?" Kind of like
the Moe's,
kind of like Cheers and hey, what was that character's name? I can't remember. Or many years ago at a mattress company that everyone knows here in town, it was important when someone walked in the door, and on a Saturday, every salesperson, because a lot of times you only had two people and everyone's busy, that someone, said something, that person walk in the door. Otherwise, they'd walk in and turn around and go out and go to another store, kind of not even realizing it, but it's because you didn't greet them and didn't recognize that they were there.
And it's so important. I mean, my husband and myself, we're guilty of that. If we go into a store and somebody does not say hi, welcome, hey, I'm so sorry, I'll be with you shortly. If we don't really, really want something in that store, we're gone. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't help that we usually dress like bums. And so people probably think that we can't afford anything in the store. But still, it's definitely happened multiple times, and we just leave.
I remember, just that brings up a story. A few years ago, we were up in North Carolina, and my wife and I was the small town. We walked in one of these furniture stores, high-end furniture stores, and I don't know if we were underdressed. There was a couple in there that definitely at least they looked the part, that they were, but it was only, you kind of got that greeting, kind of like the Beverly, you see the stories of, in Beverly Hills on Rodeo Drive, like somebody walks in and they don't even want to talk to them, right? Because they're already evaluating their dress. But anyway, we don't do that here in Northeast Florida because we have a lifestyle. And like I was talking to Cole Slate on Monday or last week, I'm sorry, he's a flip-flop guy, and I'm wearing I got my shorts on because it's a little warmer today. I've had jeans all week, but that's our lifestyle. Yeah. And so really that's one of the great things. I think you'd agree. Northeast, you can go out to Ponte Vedra where you could be walking among some CEO or their family money or whatever it is out there and not know it because they're just dressed in t-shirts and shorts and look like they just came off the beach too. Yeah. Well,
there's the people that want to stand out, and that's probably not the people you want to be around.
Yeah.
And then there's people that blend in, and you'd be surprised if you take the time to get to know a lot of the people that are dressed pretty poorly. You'd be surprised. They might be some of the wealthiest people you've ever met.
Yes, no doubt. All right, let's get back. So you start getting a taste of real estate. You're still at UNF. You join it with Pulte, but you literally for about 10 years, if I saw on your LinkedIn correctly, roughly 10 years between Pulte, it's at Standard Pacific and Cal Atlantic in their marketing department. And you start running some marketing departments for some of these large builders, and some of them need that help today for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting, I really wanted to be a VP of sales and marketing. And so I was in the sales side and sat at several models once I got my license and sold there, made it through, the crazy times. Mm-hmm. And then one of the division presidents, Jim Burkholtz, actually, he was running Standard Pacific at the time. They brought him in to run the Jacksonville division. We bought a house, or we were under contract in Nocatee in Greenland, Greenland Lakes or something.
One of the first houses in Nocatee?
Yes.
Yes.
And we were under contract, and basically he said, I want you to come over and do our marketing. And I said, well, I don't know how much I'm going to make, so you got to let me out of my contract of my house. And he did. He said, you're out, just come work for me. So I did that, and then worked my way up. Actually, my sales and marketing, VP of sales and marketing, she went on maternity leave. And so I got to run the entire division for that when she was gone. And when she came back, we weren't quite eye to eye. And so that was, I think there was a rough transition back towards her. And so that was when I just kind of was like, all right, it's time to go. And 2 weeks later, I was gone.
So that was Standard Pacific. That moved then you went over to Cal Atlantic.
Well, Standard Pacific merged with Ryland, and they became Cal Atlantic.
Oh,
and you know what's really funny about that? When we were in the room and they were like, okay, we're merging with Ryland. We're going to become this new company, Cal Atlantic. And we're doing it so a big company can't buy us out, like Lennar. And after I left Cal Atlantic, not too much longer, Lennar bought Cal Atlantic out. Right. But that was the builder they used. That hey, we're doing this merge, so big companies like Lennar won't buy us out.
Interesting.
So it was very
that's kind of funny. So now so that it came kind of more or less to an abrupt stop for you, like you just kind of end, or is this something like, okay, it looks like I'm going to end here. Let me start looking to make that, because I from your resume on LinkedIn, it looks like you go from Cal Atlantic basically into your first brokerage on a realty.
Yeah. So working with a home builder, you can't sell any of your own real estate. So I had someone named Chris Hone, and he was the one who I referred all of my stuff to that was not new construction. Mm-hmm. So he actually sold my townhome that I had at the time, my husband's grandfather's house, his aunt's house, things like that. And when I was thinking about making that switch, I'm going to give Josh Rogers some props here because I knew him he worked at Del Webb Pulte back when I did. And he was somebody that I called and I said, hey, what is it like to go into general? What do you wish that you would have known? And he basically said he loved it. He's glad he made that switch. And there were just a few things he said that kind of resonated with me and started that kind of going, that bubbling in your stomach of, okay, maybe this is something I need to consider. And so I prayed about it, and really I was very much at peace about not leaving. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I got to go. And my husband's like, wait, hold on just a second. we need to breathe for a minute. And I think he convinced me to wait 2 weeks before I put my 2 weeks notice in. So
Right.
it was very much so a switch for me. And I had met when all that was going on, I had met with Chris and Chris Hone. And we sat down. I was like, hey, have you ever wanted to have a business partner? And he's like, yeah, I've been looking for somebody, but couldn't find anybody that worked as hard as he did. And I said, well, I'm thinking about making a switch into general. You know, would you want to partner with me? And he was like, yes. And then his wife and him and my husband and myself, we all sat down and decided that we were going to do this. And so he was at Edge, not the Edge out at Ponte Vedra, a smaller Edge brokerage. I think she only had like 10 agents. And he was there, so I hung my license with them. He was going to go be our broker with the intention we were always going to open a company. And when a week before he went to go take his broker's class, he was like, you can't also own a brokerage unless you have a broker. If you have a real estate license, you can't be an owner unless you're a broker. So the week before, I signed up for the broker class 2, which was not expected. And we did that that summer, and then we opened CrossView as soon as we could, right after that, about a month and a half later.
Yeah, because I saw the little brief time that you were with. Okay, that's how it explains the Edge part. So diving right into your first brokerage, I mean, without... Yeah, I mean,
I told you I'm weird.
Yeah, well, you take massive action, which a lot of top people will tell you. If you make a decision, then take massive action. Don't sit there and dwell upon it. Which I mean, you did, but for a very brief period of time. Most people probably would have took years in what you did in 2 weeks, or even just the couple nights you were praying there to settle your mind and that this is what you were going to do. So, well, how much was your partner's experience at this time?
He had done, oh gosh, I want to say that he was making right around 6 figures, being his one-man shop.
Okay, so he had been doing, even if it was just for a few years, he was doing really well.
Yeah, he was.
He got it. He knew what he was doing.
He's phenomenal with people, with customers. He's just a great person, and I wouldn't be where I am today without him. So, yeah.
All right. So he's got I would imagine at least a few years experience on the retail side.
Yes.
You're bringing in
the new construction,
but I mean, obviously you're involved. You're around these agents all the time because you're working with them. You've got experience marketing, new construction homes. So, I mean, you're putting all these pieces together. So I get what I'm looking for is when you go to CrossView. And I think it's very important, as I say on every show, every brokerage is a little different. Some are really good at, the super green agents that are coming out, or you got like an Ingalls and Volker who are looking for experienced agents and proven agents, and they want to take them to another level. What are you guys, well, I'm sorry, what was your partner's name again? Chris. What were you and Chris, in a sense of creating an ideology, or was this something like, hey, we're going to go create this on the fly, across
that one.
Did you guys? Yeah. So, jumping in, I mean, what was your initial vision, or did you even have a vision of like where you're at today and the number of agents? Was that something that, was in your cards?
Yeah. So it's changed a lot. But what I used to say is I want to be bigger than Watson. And the reason that I was saying that...
Do you still say that today?
I don't. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But that was my original thought. And the reason why I said that was because there's, KW was here and Cole Banker and everybody else, but they were all franchises, right? So if you actually looked at Watson, with Bill Watson owning it, it actually really was by far the largest brokerage, taking out, if you actually separate the different franchises out. And I am one of those that, hey, let's shoot for the moon or shoot for the stars or whatever. And if we don't quite get there, we still went pretty far, right? So I think Primerica did that for me, set goals really, really big. And even if you don't hit them, and that's not how I feel today, but if you don't hit them, at least you've really gone far. You haven't capped yourself, essentially, right? And so when we started CrossView, it was, I think, more of the two of us are going to do it. We didn't know how the whole team was going to work. We didn't know what kind of agents we wanted to bring on, anything like that. we actually we're going to be 100% brokerage was our plan when we were going into the brokerage class. And by the time we got done with that class, I'm like, I'm not going to be responsible for all these people. And, I've got to get compensated for looking at paperwork and training them and making sure that they're doing a good
Your
job.
value you're adding, yeah.
Yeah. And so during our brokerage class, we actually made the switch that we weren't going to be 100% brokerage. And it was
Explain that a little bit to me, because I don't know what does it mean when you say 100%?
Oh, sorry. Commission structures.
Okay.
So your commission splits with your agents.
So the
Florida Homes and Mortgage.
Right. So you were going to keep the roof over the office by just charging a brokerage fee to the seller.
It's usually a small.
buyer?
It's a small fee. It could be like a monthly fee, transaction fee. It can be a small percentage. They call it 100%, but a lot of times it's like 0.002% of the sales price.
Right. Whatever
So
the fee. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
Very minimal. Not enough that you have to have. It's a great model, but you got to have a lot of people. And when we were going through that class, we just realized that wasn't for us.
Right. To get going, and the time and energy that you need to put in to get the return. All right. So we talked about what your the initial steps in getting in. Tell me a little about the time you spent marketing, because I think it's a joke right now with what's going on as far as our builders. We're literally 12 months ago, they didn't even want to see a real estate agent.
That was bad.
Now they're begging you to come in, paying you 5% commissions.
Oh, got a text yesterday. There's 6% on anything that can close this year. 6% realtor commission.
My God.
Got that yesterday from an agent.
6% to the buyer's agents getting 6%. People, yes, not split between the buyers and sellers. The buyer's agent, if they can sell one of their spec homes by the end of the year. It's not actually, I laugh. And the reason why I laugh is not because of the situation. It's because they're having to do it. That's obviously a sad part. Why I laugh is when I was working with a large builder myself from the lending side and looking at their marketing department being very primitive, almost as if like, okay, well, we call them our marketing department. They're doing some social media stuff or whatever. They were not doing how many cocktail parties have you been invited to by the builders recently? Come over, we're going to take you out and do the art class or, the things they do to entertain the agents. They weren't doing any of that.
Yeah. It's changed a lot. Back when I was doing it, they were still doing, going to this agent's offices and bringing breakfast and then doing events at the models. Some of the grand openings, I remember in Del Webb down in Nocatee, we had a car show. We brought in tons of amazing cars and did a huge event, and the agents came in before the customers came in so that they kind of got that preview, and definitely wined and dined. And
I will. Did you go to the Rebar event back last spring?
No, I'm very antisocial.
But I was surprised there was no builder there. Maybe there was a builder there, but I didn't see him. I guarantee you, watch the Rebar event this spring. Every builder will be representing. They want to get out in front. So coming from that, being involved in that marketing, and what have you taken from what you've learned in your experience with the builders, and now you're at CrossView, and I think marketing is a two-edged sword for you. Is you're not only marketing the brand. You're marketing to recruit agents, but obviously to attract the consumer to call you as well. So you're working a little way with the builder. You're probably more or less just working towards the consumer, but you're still recruiting. You want to show agents that, hey, we're doing this first class. So what are some of the things that you took from there that you and maybe even tweaked, not directly took from, but that you learned that worked from the builder side to where you're at now?
Well, this is where I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me, because so many people are still stuck, I feel like, in the old ways, and the just listed postcards and all of those different things. And being in the new construction world, my budget was well over $1 million in marketing a year just for Jacksonville. And if we had openings for communities, that even increased that. But it was like we spent all those monies. We had ads in certain magazines. We did the postcards. We did this, and I saw what actually drove traffic and what didn't.
Interesting.
And so one of the struggles that I have when I'm recruiting agents is because they go to other brokerages and talk to them, and they're like, well, we do this and we do that. And I'm like, I don't do any of that. But it's because I never, even with a massive budget, I never saw those results. So it's like, I would rather spend our money on other things. And so some people get that and some agents don't.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest things. But I had, like I said, I mentioned his name a minute ago, Jim Burkholtz. He was amazing. He really helped me grow confidence. He let me sit in rooms I should not have been in. And I helped, I actually was flown out to California to meet with architects to design floor plans, Montevilla. My mom actually named that community.
Oh.
The original duplex plans, the ones Lennar builds now are not the same, but the other ones I was in California with the architects and we designed those together.
Cool.
So I just really was exposed to a lot of the business. He really allowed me to be a part of all the different vice presidents, you know, for land and finance and construction. And they just all really allowed me to be a part of it. And so I just took all of that and moved it over to my brokerage. And like I said, some people agree with me, some people don't. I don't do most of the traditional things. I'm big on photography. I'm big on how houses look when they go out. I just create a buyer's packet because I've never needed one, but then I've realized that just because I didn't need it and I was successful doesn't mean that Susie Q that comes over doesn't need it. Yeah. So that's really where I'm learning right now as I'm trying to change and do things for agents that was necessarily stuff they don't need, but especially a newer agent, they think they need all these things. Right. And it's like, you really don't.
Right.
Just go be you. Have the knowledge and go be you.
I mean, and if they're listening to this podcast, they would hear much of what you're saying. There are some agents that put together some great listing package. Yeah. Where others will tell you they just go out and be them and understand what the client's wanting to do and obviously create the strategy there. But so kind of give us something to chew on there a little bit, like something maybe you learn, one of those things you learned not to do because you saw the results didn't work as the builder. So you're not doing it now, or something you saw there that you are doing or maybe tweaked.
So broker open houses, having the agents actually come to the models. Most of the people that go to those now, I don't want to generalize, and I'm going to make somebody listening mad, I'm sure, and I don't mean to, so I apologize. But most of the people that go to those, they don't have a customer. They aren't going to bring you a buyer. They're just there for the free food. And so... And
pretend they're... Well, we know, and this is discussed all the time, so I'll throw people out there. Because I've done it before where you have a marketing campaign going on, or I'm a loan officer and I'm teamed up with some other support vendors, insurance movers, whatever. And what we realized after a short period of time, the same people show up.
Yeah,
and
they do.
And they're not, and they have your lunch and they so, but they actually, very few are actually referring, and the ones that are referring are actually not the ones who are coming all the time, which we would love to do that because obviously we will, continue to build relationships every time you shake hands. But you have these agents that just show up all the time, almost like they're there for the free lunch, but they're not giving in. And I agree with you totally. They're there for the cocktail and the social hour to say they are actually doing and involved in the business. But okay, we got to do business though. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I think what that also did to hurt me a little bit was I'm not a smoozer, right? So like when I'm talking to agents or I'm talking to customers, I follow up when I'm supposed to follow up. So I will ask them, hey, should I follow up with you in a week, a month, tomorrow, what's best? But right. I am not the person that's that constant, like, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? When agents interview with me, one of the things I leave them with is, look, my lack of not following up with you doesn't mean I'm not interested in you. It just means that right now my time needs to be with my agents I currently have. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to talk you into coming here. I don't want to talk somebody into working with me, or, from an agent standpoint or a customer standpoint.
Do you tell them when you're not interested?
What? I find ways of, I still return phone calls, but I will maybe be a little bit more harsh on a certain answer that I know that that'll turn them away.
Okay. So
You know,
politely.
so it's definitely always polite. And,
But the ones you're interested in, you let them know, hey, I'm interested in carrying on this conversation.
yeah,
Call me when you're ready.
I do. And I leave it with the fact of, look, when times get tough, if I've talked you into coming here or I've talked you into working with me, you're most likely going to jump ship. You're most likely going to somewhere else. I need you to self-realize after doing your research that this is where you want to be or who you want to work with. And then when those times are bad, that's what I help remind them of is like, hey, why did you pick me? Why did you come here? Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times they're like, yeah, you're right. I did my research. And again, they didn't feel talked in. They didn't feel like, somebody waved something shiny in their face and said,
all right. So here's a direct question though on that. And those who want to open their own brokerage or be that recruiting broker at one of the franchises or something like that. CrossView itself, you guys about, it's about 4 to 5 years now?
It technically just finished 6 years.
6 years.
September.
How long did it take you to realize that what you just were talking about in finding the person who wants to be there? Yes, you're putting all the things that that you're willing to, pour into them should they want to be there. But I think everybody experienced that where they want to love everybody and they think everyone's going to come in and mm-hmm. be great. But it's after a handful or at some point you realize, you know what, I got to be a little more pickier or more challenging to them to make that jump over. Because I hear it commonly with the top agents who are building teams that they almost try to convince them not to come over.
Yeah.
And see how bad they actually,
really want it.
Yeah.
I would say I'm still learning it. I don't feel like I'm quite there yet, but when I bought my business partner out, that was December 31st of 2019. I was actually in Israel when our buyout happened, mm-hmm. Which was pretty cool. I was at the Dead Sea, and it was midnight. And I just remember looking at my husband and saying, "Oh my gosh, we own CrossView all by ourselves now." I think when that happened, I really started to figure out who I was and what I wanted and where I wanted to take the brokerage. And that's when I started realizing that I don't have the time to spend with agents that if I'm constantly having to talk them into being here, right? And so I looked at the time value of money for me, and it wasn't, how much money is that agent going to bring? Because I have agents that produce a little bit, and I have agents that produce a lot, mm-hmm. and everybody in between. But it was just, who do I want to spend my time with, right? I mean, I don't want the headache that all these people over here that I want to spend my time with don't get any of it because I recruited this one person that I don't really care for. And it was a hard lesson. A couple people left, and some because I asked, some because they, wanted to go somewhere else, didn't like the change and direction I was going in. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's just taken me confidence in myself that God's got us covered. And it's, one of my prayers every day is, Lord, bring us the agents that you want to be here. Keep the ones you don't away. Bring the customers you want us to have. Keep the ones you don't away. And so that's really what I always constantly turn to. And when somebody doesn't want to come our direction, I'm just like, oh, obviously that was not one God wanted here.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we lose the realization of the fact that if it was so easy, everyone would be doing it, right? Yeah. If marketing was so easy or having, because we go through these challenges, like I said, like you're recruiting. Do they want to be there? If it was so easy, everyone would want to be doing it. But you have to persevere and keep pushing on. You're in the spot, and like I said, he's teaching you by throwing some of these people in front of you. That hey, actually, I remember that interview, and I probably should have not recruited him to join the team, and you learn and you keep getting better every day.
And we've had those moments for sure. Yeah. And you look back and you're like, man, I knew I wasn't sure about that person. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it still happens. It's happening less and less. But I think also we've really started honing in on our core values. We've really started honing in on, our mission statement and everything from that standpoint. And so as we've done that, it's helped. because I put that in front of people and I'm like, look, this is our core values. Slide the paper across the table. And if you don't align with them, then you're not going to be successful here. And I really think you should go somewhere else. And a lot of people have actually appreciated, and they've come back to me later and said, I just thank you so much, because that really helped them figure out where they needed to go.
Well, a subject I've been bringing up with a lot of people more recently on the show is, and one of the consistent things, as I told you pre-show, I like to think that maybe a new agent who's thinking about, because I really like, I keep saying, and I'm going to do it, people. I'm going to put a book together of all these great stories of all these great agents that we've had on, because the themes are similar. But and I think right now the title of my book is "So You Want to Be in Real Estate?" Right?
Question mark.
Exactly. And if you're a new agent, and I imagine, my question to you is how, from a broker side, your interviewing or your recruiting process has evolved over the 6 years. Because obviously, like I said, initially you had more people that ended up not either working out or less desirable. Now you're a little more pickier. So if you could touch a little bit on how your process has changed, or some of the things maybe you're looking for have changed, because that new agent going out there has to understand, and I think you'll agree with me, they have to buy in. They have to want to be there. Mm-hmm. You're not hiring them, putting them on a salary. They have to want to be there and see you as the broker, as their coach and mentor, someone they want to follow and take advice from. And if there's a lot of brokerages out there who hire you just because you're a warm body,
yeah,
no doubt. So how has that evolved for you to make sure you're bringing in the right person and there's a match and not a divorce 6 months down the road because promises weren't kept?
Yeah. Well, and I used to, if somebody wanted to come on, I would bring them on, and I never talked about other brokerages. And I don't like to talk about anybody badly. Everybody's different. Mm-hmm. There are some, of course, that I like, and there's others that I just cringe when somebody goes there. But I'm not going to let anybody know who those brokerages are. But I used to be afraid to talk about them. And now when I'm talking to an agent, my goal is for them to walk away with a ton of great things to think about, right? So I do let them know, especially the new agent. I'm like, look, you have a license. You have blood going through your veins. Mm-hmm. You can go to pretty much any brokerage, with the exclusion of about 5 in town, that would hire you in a second, because it's all about numbers. So you really need to be the one doing the interview. You need to be the one asking me, what can I provide you? And so I start giving them tools. I basically teach them how to interview brokers while they're interviewing with me, and it's worked. And then I'll also talk to them about, what do you want in a brokerage? And a new agent usually doesn't know. They think they want a whole bunch of training and support. And so I start really diving deep into that, finding out what kind of training they're looking for. And then after I ask them a lot of those interrogating type questions that most of the time they walk away with, I got to really think about this. Mm-hmm. Then I start saying, well, let me tell you, of everything you said, how our brokerage does or does not fit into what you've said. And then I kind of go through and say, well, we do this, but you said you really wanted this over here, and we don't do that. Mm-hmm. And we don't do it because of this reason. And I just kind of work through that. So for me, it's not even an interview for them coming to work with me. It's more of let me leave you with so much to think about. And then if you can't stop thinking about us and what I had to say, then maybe we need to go to the second interview, and it really be, okay, what can CrossView do? What are your splits? What are your this? What are your that?
I mentioned it with Jennifer Hendry with Game Changer. Yeah. To have some sort of, I'd love for everyone to listen to my podcast, because I try to make this part of every show, talking about, that new agent and what they should be asking for and what they should be looking for. But almost part of their, especially these trainings that they go to prepare for the test, that there is this little part where for 30 minutes, whether just a top broker comes in and explains what you just were going through. Mm-hmm. Because I think, like you said, they think they want something, but they don't really know what they're even asking.
They don't. And I actually have an interview with an agent tomorrow that interviewed with me a year ago. And he's been with 2 brokerages since. And he said when he called, I didn't follow up with him. He just called out of the blue on Monday. And he said, we interviewed about a year ago. And I know now a lot more of what I'm looking for. So I know what questions to ask. And he remembered our conversation, and he remembered that a lot of things that I said fit into what he was looking for. And so him and his wife are coming in tomorrow afternoon. So it's kind of cool that a year later, what I said still resonated with somebody.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting how that story progresses if he latches on, and then 3 years from now, we can talk about how that relationship was really great. That could be a definitely a story, because I really believe I've had some really young people on the show that got it early. There's some of us older, and at my age, I look back and I'm somewhat jealous of these 30-year-olds that are killing it in the business, because they just get it and they're in the right place and doing the right things and following the right people. But then there's this other group of us who have taken a lot longer. Some of us haven't reached that, where they got to really look inside. Whether it's your faith or whatever, you got to understand you are you. Stop trying to be someone else. Someone else may be really great at cold calling, and you go, hey, I can do that too. Well, trust me, if you're not good at it, after the first half an hour, you're going to be ready to quit.
Yeah. Well, something about me, I have never called an expired or a FSBO in my entire life.
Interesting.
Never. And it's true though, and when I am interviewing agents, one of the things that I tell them is you can be successful in real estate in a lot of ways. You can do it by doing podcasts. You can do it by Facebook and this social media. You can do it by door knocking. You can do it. One person I talked to, he goes to garage sales. And that's all he does.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And, you can be successful in real estate, but you can't be good if you're doing everything. So all at once. Yeah. But if you get good at one thing, right, you get at that one thing, you get that train rolling without stopping, without any, hiccups, just easy, where you can basically put it on cruise control. Then go pick up the next lead source. Get that working, get that on cruise control. Now you have 2 spokes in your wheel. And then you do the 3rd one and do the 4th one. And that's really what I teach people to do, is don't be good at everything yet. Get good at one, get it working, and then add to it.
Well, you bring up a common theme. You didn't say the word that I'm going to use, but you were describing it, and that's consistency. Whatever that is that you're good at to get that train rolling, it takes consistency of doing it. There's agents that have had sales the first moment they had their license. There's others that have taken 6-8 months. I haven't heard anybody going a year yet. I think they'd probably quit at that point. But I heard, 6 months is a lot of agents say, hey, it took me 6 months to get my first sale. But whatever you're doing, being consistent. Can you, Jennifer, in your experience, whether it was you or you just saw, an agent you've worked with, something just to share, someone either, again, something you did or something another agent did, that when they were they just were consistently at it and their business has continued to grow, and that consistency moved their needle every day.
Well, I would say, just using my example, I picked a lead source. I know you saw that Dave Ramsey was on my Facebook page. Yeah. Again, going back to Primerica, he learned a lot from Art Williams and the buy term invest the difference. And Dave really took it out there and shared it with a lot of people. And I got really, really good at those leads. And we actually became the #1 ELP in Northeast Florida.
Oh, great.
And I think out of the nation, we got to #6 for his entire program.
Wow.
Because that's where my focus was. But at the same time, that's the lead source I worked. I didn't work anything else. And I've been able to pass that on to others. And, it's really worked. But consistency, my husband, he got into real estate for a while and it was horrible. Everything he touched just was like crap. and he really pushed through it and then really started to see some success. Unfortunately, we had our son decided to hurt himself when he was 3, and that kind of changed everything and got him out. But it just took a little while to, keep pushing through. But here's the thing. You can't be consistent with something if you don't like it.
Right.
Right. So I'm not saying, hey, go call expireds and FSBOs, because I never would have been consistent with that. I never would have seen success out of it because I can't stand it. So
Right.
I had to find something I was passionate about that I believed in for those days you don't want to make those phone calls, those days that you don't want to keep doing this. But if you love what it is, you can get through those days, you know?
Yes.
So that's my biggest takeaway.
I don't know. You've rolled right into one of the things I've become very passionate on the show, especially having John and Brittany Brooks. They kind of led, but now I am seeing, because they have alerted me to it, or awakened it within me to look for it. And that is finding what you are good at. And would you agree, matching up with the right broker that's going to help you find that is so important to your business and how fast it can grow?
Oh, for sure. Leadership, I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for. But one thing, going back to the interview piece that I always tell agents is, look, you say you want training today, right? Which I get, you need training, you know nothing. But what are you going to need in 6 months? What are you going to need in a year? And what are you going to need in 2 years? Because what I don't think people realize is switching brokerages when you actually have stuff going on is extremely difficult to do. And a lot of people don't want to do it. They might want to go somewhere else, but they're like, I don't want to rebrand. I don't want new signs and shirts and everything else. And so you really are kind of marrying where you are. Now you can move, right? You can move anytime you want to. You're not stuck there. But if you really take the time to do that research on the front end and figure out that broker that not only is going to give you what you need today, but what you're going to need in 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, then you're going to find yourself so much happier there than, okay, I got through my training and this broker has nothing for me left. Okay, let's go find, and then now you start the whole process again.
100%. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because I want to dig in. You mentioned Dave Ramsey. I imagine you still follow
I do.
him.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you do to stay sharp, and do you maybe recommend to your team? Do you guys share books, podcasts, events? Like, hey, this was a great one. You should go to that. I mean, what do you do to stay sharp?
So Steven in my office is amazing with podcasts. He's always sending me stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I don't have time to listen to 7 of these a day. So I'm probably, again, I'm weird. I'm against the grain. I don't get a lot of my stuff from real estate. I get a lot of my stuff from outside of the industry, because if everything that you get is from the real estate world, then everybody's talking about the same stuff. Mm-hmm. So how do you learn something new? How do you take something? So I am a part of C12, which is a it's not a mentorship program, but it's a round table. It's not a BNI, but
it's more of a mastermind
group. Yeah, 12 people, and it's every industry. So there's not 2 people in the same industry that's part of it. And just listening to even their problems. I mean, there's people there that own restaurants, but there is still stuff to take away. How do they maintain employees? Well, if you really look at that, in real estate, you're maintaining agents because they can go anywhere at any time. Right. So, how are they having that great environment? What can I bring that into my world? Mm-hmm. So most of the stuff I listen to and I'm a part of actually is business, self-development. I love Dave Ramsey's Entre Leader book. Mm-hmm. It is a very easy read. Highly recommend. Everybody I've given it to has been like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. So highly recommend that book. But I am a big Dave Ramsey fan, and that's where I learned a lot of the ways that we've done business, is because his mentality is, how do I help business owners across every industry? Right. So I always know what's going on in real estate, but most of the people I listen to are not real estate.
Well, I totally agree with you. When you're out there doing it, and I'm going to give you Billy Wagner's book. I got extra copies over there on the table. Thank you. Make sure you take it. And because he goes on, he was on the podcast. Obviously, he's a very respected insurance agent in town, but he's also now being drawn out to these events from the insurance world to speak. Again, like how to retain employees, whether that's an insurance office, a restaurant, or you adding value to the agents or transaction coordinators within you. A lot of the principles are the same. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if you do get listening to just someone who's solely real estate, you're not getting any new ideas.
Exactly.
They're in the same box you are. So I totally agree from that standpoint there. I'm going to jump down because from a time standpoint, what do you think? You guys have gotten some accolades here on your growth, opening a new office and so forth. What do you think? What are you doing? What's like the secret, the ingredients and sauce you think you're doing? And this may change over time because it will. But right now, what are you doing right? What have you been doing right the last couple of years that people are catching on and saying, hey, we need to go over to CrossView?
I don't think I'm really doing anything as right as I feel like I could. And
that's life. That's never going to end.
But I think that's to my benefit, right? Because I'm not stagnant in growth. I feel like I have so much more to give and so much more to do. And so for me, I don't feel like anything is really right. I think we're moving in the right direction in a lot of different ways, but I wouldn't say that we're anywhere close to what we're capable of. But, again, my faith is very important to me, and I believe that God has a bigger plan for us, and maybe that's what's driving it, is because I don't feel like I'm quite where he wants me to be to go to that next level yet. And
right.
It's been a really rough year, and so I probably would have answered this very differently 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
We were supposed to be in our office in May, and we actually just got possession yesterday, so that was very, very stressful, but there's a lot of stuff that I learned, and the biggest thing is just I care.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we get better? How do we serve people? How do we all grow and be better together? Because I am not good by myself, but I can be amazing
right.
with other people around me.
You said something there, God has a path for you. A few years ago, I really dug into John Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy his stuff. Went to his conference in 19 over in Orlando. And, just the one thing there's a couple of things I took from that you've kind of mentioned here in so many words, and, the path for you. And then, the challenges that come up, you learn something, or because of the delay in the you being able to take possession of your new office and get it up and going, which takes time and energy. You have to go, why did he throw this curveball at me, right? What did he need me to delay a few months because I needed to fix something else that I wasn't realizing it, and he's now delaying it so I now can focus on that for whatever reason. But I think we can get complacent in our ways, and we talked a little bit about earlier before the show about leadership and how some people can get to a level and they're like, oh, I made it. And they relax, not realizing that you're there for a reason, and that's to lead people and add value to people in whatever way that is, in whatever business you're in, and being inspirational. Like you said, you never feel like it's perfect. Well, that's because you're growing all the time. You're not going, well, I know it all. I don't need to read another book. I don't need to listen to another podcast. I don't need to go another Dave Ramsey event or whatever it is. And that's what makes you so valuable. And I think a lot of people overlook that. But when you're not satisfied, you're continuing the journey. When you're satisfied, people start to relax. And what do they end up doing? They end up going backwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
So, on the term faith, and obviously according to Stephen, CrossView.
Yep.
That's the names, and how much of it of your faith, which I think is a lot, but I want you to describe, and then the people, these agents, I think are obviously attracted to that because you're not hiding it.
No.
We're not. How much of your faith is part of your business?
So we wanted, when we were naming the business, we wanted it to glorify God, but we didn't want it to be like, Jesus Realty, and we didn't want to scare people away because there's so many customers that believe completely different than I do, mm-hmm. that we want to help, right? I mean, it's a mission field for us. And so when I'm meeting with agents, I do talk about it because we do pray before our meetings. Now, you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to believe the way that I believe to be a part of our brokerage. but I don't want somebody to join and then come to a meeting and be like, oh my gosh, they just prayed. This is so weird. What have I done?
Right.
And, you know, our first core value is Christ-centered. And so I would say that's probably been one of the biggest things I've learned over this delay is that I said it's a Christian brokerage, right? But has it really been, right? I made a sign that goes on my desk and it says, this is not my company. This is God's company. And it's in a frame so I can look at it. And core values, nobody can list our core values. We've had them because I went to a Dave Ramsey conference and that's what they said we needed. And so I did it. But our new training room has each core values 15 inches by 15 inches, you know, across the walls. So you can really see what they are. You know, we're really taking extra steps right now to live that out. And it's, you know, I'm not really working with customers anymore. I'm going to have a few that I work with, but for the most part, it's how do I serve my agents so that they can best serve their customers? And are we living our core values? And we're putting into place this year a scale. Okay, here's each core value, and then we're going to have everybody rank how the company did on each core value to make sure that we hit them, right? Versus it's just out there. So I think that's the biggest lesson I probably learned is just I've said that this is the company, but I don't know if I've really lived it the way that I feel like I can. And so we're still working on that.
Well, you know, when you get to that point, let me know. I'm a little older than you. I don't know if I'm going to last that long because I don't think that's ever going to, but that's what you're driving for, perfection. And that's what's important, knowing that ultimately you will never actually get there, but hopefully you'll get close. And I think anyone looking in, and some people might say, hey, she's got this sign on her desk about God owns the company and she's crazy.
I told you that was weird.
It is proven that we will go further if we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And I think people discount that, in that your faith is that bigger purpose. Whether someone totally agrees with the faith is not the important thing. The important thing is that you're part of something bigger than you. So you're driving forward. Does someone want to get on your coattails?
Yeah.
You know, because your journey is never going to end, and you're climbing Mount Everest, and there's never you're never going to reach the summit, and you're going forward. Does someone want to get on your coattails and learn how to climb a mountain? Because they can go for a long way, right? And I think that's really what I get out of what you're driving for, and obviously why people are following you. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And I think the real estate world, to say like, hey, I'm pro Keller Williams, or I'm Coldwell Banker, or I'm Remax. They're not. I mean, not taking anything from this company, because I can list every brokerage that's out there. The actual desire for a customer to come to you is you as an agent.
That's correct.
They're coming for you personally. They're not coming for CrossView. They're not coming for Keller Williams. They're not coming for Remax. They're coming because of you. So a little different than from the lending side. You are the actual everything there. So you have to have something bigger than yourselves to attract other people to you.
Correct.
Because if you all are about you, probably actually, people are going to run away from you. They'll get tired of you real quick. So, all right, true. That was my preaching this morning. All right, I want to go through a few things, and I want just make a quick statement from a time standpoint. Some common things. We did already talk about consistency, but you did touch on a few. You threw out some names. Obviously, Dave Ramsey was one of those, and you're following him and being part of his program, and obviously you truly enjoyed whatever he's saying rings with you, and you following his leads, but surrounding yourself by successful people. How important is it to hang with the Dave Ramsey? You even said you've been to his house, but even you've probably been introduced to other great people that he knows, or in this circle of this mastermind, what'd you call it? C12?
Yep. Yeah. C12. And that just started. So that's fresh.
Well, yeah. So you're again, so you're finding something new to keep moving on your journey. How important is that in the growth? Like I think you mentioned earlier when you were working with the builders, being invited into some meetings that you didn't realize why you were really there, but they were bringing you into the circle.
Yeah.
How important has that been in your career?
It's been really important. I think for me, I like to sit back and listen. I like to ask questions. I like to just observe and see what all is going on around me and what can I pick up and what can I grow from. And sometimes you see characteristics in people and you're like, I think I do that and I don't like that. So obviously I need to self to realize, you know. So for me, I think always being around others it just helps me be better. But I also realize that when you have a team, you get drained. Right? You get pulled in every direction. Your phone's constantly ringing. You're just exhausted.
Because you're the key person in the room.
Right.
And they're pulling from you.
Yeah. And so going to like a Dave Ramsey conference or going and doing this C12, and it is a chance for me to fill my bucket. Because if I fill my bucket, then I can help others. And again, you know, I love Dave. I keep talking about him, but he has an analogy. It's a Kaddish cup, I believe. I might have said that wrong. I apologize if I did. But it's a saucer with a wine glass essentially sitting on top of it. And his whole metaphor is the fact that you need to fill your cup up so that it overflows, and the saucer holds the excess, right? So that you can do that. And that's really what I want to do is I want to fill myself up so that I'm overflowing with information, with positivity, with care, with whatever it is that's needed.
So your agents are the saucer catching the overflow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'm empty,
right,
or I'm not overflowing, there's nothing for anybody else. So so going back to, you know, those events and things like that, that's a chance for me to fill my cup up so that I can come back and I can be better. And our brokerage definitely grows when I've done those things. And, you know, it's like you're at the airplane and you put the mask on yourself before you put it on somebody else, right? When I'm filled up and I'm happy and I have energy, everybody does better around me. All the agents do better. Everything is better. And when I'm drained, you can see it. Yeah. Like it's so obvious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you summed it all up perfectly. When your cup is flowing over, you've got the energy flowing through you. It's pouring into the others. I mean, that sums up that. You had some great analogies in there that were just perfect. And to understand, again, when you're looking to hang with more successful people, someone who has their cup is flowing over, you want to be around that person because, you know, like I said, you know, to catch this, you know, if you want to call it catching the scraps or the drips that are coming down the side, it doesn't matter what analogy you want to use, but their cup is flowing over. And I think there's one of the common themes of all the great agents. And if you're new out there, trust me, every single one of them are willing to pour into you. Okay. You just got to ask.
Yep. I
mean, that's really what it comes out to, because they've given a lot. I guarantee a lot of agents have just given and no one's there to receive. So they retract a little bit, they're full, and they so want to give. They're just waiting for that person that wants to step up and ask. Yeah. And then they're just going to flow into you. Showing up. We probably didn't describe this, but like, I mean, at CrossView, how important is it, you know, especially for new people that are trying to get your culture, your what'd you call them? Core values. They need to show up and show whether you're having a training or social, whatever it may be, to share with others what's going on, because there's no one will ever do every possible transaction that ever could exist in real estate or in the lending side. Everybody's completely different. Every house is different. Every neighborhood's different. There's this issue. There's that issue. You need to come. How important is showing up physically, and, you know, whether it's coming in the office or being involved in different events in the community or NEFAR, et cetera.
So it's so important to me that I just am opening a 5,000 square foot office.
Wow.
Our training room seats 25 with tables. So if I remove the tables, we can fit more. But I don't like trainings to be too much bigger than that, because then people don't feel like they can interact and learn. But there's a lot of unique things that we've done at this office, and but we've done fun things. We added a shuffleboard table into our office, just because I want people there. And sometimes you get burned out and you get tired and you need a break. Go play shuffleboard for a minute, go play cornhole down the hall, go do this, go do that, and then come back and work some more. But what I found too is when we were between offices, it really hurt our morale in our office, because so many people they'd come in, they'd go to lunch together, right? They'd learn from each other. They build those relationships with other agents, and they're like, I'm out of town and my customer, this house came on, they absolutely have to see it. Is there anybody that can help me? Well, my agents will step up and they'll go show it, and they won't ask for anything. They're not going to ask for commission. They're not going to ask for this, because the thing is it's going to be returned.
What comes around goes around.
And that's the environment, but you can't have that environment if you're not in the office to get to know each other. Like when we do things, I want people to know and feel comfortable and not be like, I don't know anybody here. Like I like doors open. I very much so hate when doors get closed. So we prop everything open we possibly can. My husband gets really mad because then my day gets ruined, because people are constantly walking in and out and I can't get anything done. But which means I get it done at home, which a big plug to my husband. I wouldn't be where I am today without him. He's been amazing.
Awesome.
He's my rock.
Awesome. So showing up is very important. I didn't even know that, and I poked into it and opened up the whole thing, but we learned a little bit about your new office.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. I mean, I reach out to just say Landmark Title, for example, and
they're one of our sponsors.
Yeah, that's right. They're one of the sponsors for the event, and they opened with a training room to be their headquarters, to be a place where people hang out and come and they can learn. And then they have a lounge for the realtors, and they get on the Wi-Fi. So they're comfortable there and they want to be there. And that's where business takes place.
Yeah. And I had coffee with David last week, I think. And when I was talking to him, he said his training room was, I think, one of the very best things that he did in that office.
100%.
I was very pleased with it.
So I had your 102 episode. I put together a training last Friday for celebrating the 100th episode that I'd done last week with Cole. And I when I put some little videos out, I actually say Landmark Title, the new mecca of education in Jacksonville, because I'm going to put it out there. NEFAR, you're falling down.
Yeah. Their training room's it's pretty awesome.
100%. Greatest thing, next to putting a nail salon in, David's got it going on.
A masseuse would be great. That walks around, does like chair masseuses.
Chair massages. Yeah. 100%. I didn't want to go there, but yes, I totally agree. Well, you actually led into it a little bit with that last statement, because the last thing we didn't really hone in on is, we talk about going to events and being around great people and learning from outside of the business to help your mind grow and come up with new ideas on how to do real estate better. But actually just simply, the design of your office shows how important this is. How important is education? Because I imagine your vision is to have a regularly scheduled education coming in, talking about all parts of our business.
Yeah, extremely important. And that was why the training room became the size that it is. Again, I don't think if you get too big, you really can't get that same type of learning in. But
25 people is a good number for a good training.
Yeah.
I mean, I very rarely you're going to get more than that. I mean, NEFAR has some classes like at the end of the year when they're trying to get their CEs and stuff done.
That's pretty cool.
They're only there at that time of the year because of that. But on a regular basis to fill 20, 25 seats, that's a nice little classroom. Yeah.
So for our standpoint, and where we are very different as a brokerage, and what I tell people is that our training program morphs consistently, because I'm not going to train on foreclosures and short sales the last couple of years because there really weren't any.
Yeah, they'd be like,
right?
I'm wasting my time.
So our trainings were on multiple offers and what you can do. And so what I do is I take any problems I'm hearing through the brokerage over a 30-day span, I'm struggling with this, or I ran into repair problems, like anything I'm consistently hearing. And then the next month, our training calendar is filled with all of that kind of stuff. Because if one person's dealing with it, chances are multiple
100%.
So we put our training calendar out. We're actually behind for November because we've been focused on getting this office open, but we try to put it out by the 15th of the month for the next month so that agents can put it on their schedules, and it's out for the whole month, and then they kind of pick and choose what they want to come to. And then for I run a contest usually. So a lot of times my contest will be around what training classes they've been to. So you get so many points for different classes. And then you have, like at Christmas, at our Christmas party, the top 3 people are getting cash prizes based on how many training classes they've been to over the 2 months time span.
I'm going to assume you did not listen to my Cole Slate interview last
No, I
week.
was going to.
That's all right. That's all right.
And
that's all right.
it didn't play when I thought it was going to play. And
that's
I
the
got
greatest thing.
sidetracked.
That's the greatest thing about podcasts. They're out there, and it's out there forever. So, and actually, he'll be, when the video's finished, he'll be on the YouTube if you actually want to watch it. But it's out on Apple.
Oh, I'll be watching it. Don't worry.
What I love, and I would just challenge you to put this through your thoughts, because of your focus on education and your training class. To actually, when people are putting on, it's so you can the power of influence that you can get when you have you say, hey, come on in and do a training for me, whatever subject it is, and you fill the room, and you then become, oh, my favorite place is CrossView, and the reason is because you fill the room, and it's you that's filling the room. Hopefully the speaker eventually builds it. But here's where we go. Cole designs his comp plan. He gives incentives within the comp plan if you're involved in something in the community, on your HOA board, NEFAR, FAR, whatever it is, you're involved in that. I would almost incentivize you to take it just from a like a bonus or prize, a drawing, to like, hey, if you go to X amount of trainings, we're going to have 52 trainings throughout the year. Well, we'll take a couple weeks off. 50 trainings, and you show up to 25 of them, we're going to compensate you differently on your commission. Just because I truly believe, and I've seen it in the cell phone world, to go to other businesses, if you have the wrong comp plan, or if your comp plan drives the behaviors that are going to make your agents better, you will be better. Your whole organization will be better.
Yep,
that's
very true.
I'm preaching today. I'm rolling. Must be this great coffee from Daly's over here. So we've covered all those common themes. Looking back and just kind of as we close out here, what's been since you've had CrossView, what's been your biggest mistake? And that could be just in a transaction that you did, or how you run CrossView, or just something that you look back on and you're like, we know he threw that failure in front of us, or that mistake that we didn't produce for us, to know not to do it again or do it differently.
I would say it's actually personal. My biggest mistake is putting so much towards the company and not what I needed to towards my family. I have a 7 and a 10-year-old, and my husband, Scott, who's amazing. And I really haven't done a good job of balance. And I don't believe there is balance. I think that, you work a whole lot and your family life suffers, but then at some point the work suffers a little bit and the family life is great. So it's more of an average. That's how I feel balance is achieved, and not truly everything's balanced. And I think that's probably my biggest thing over the years, is trying to figure out how to do everything, because I am a workaholic. And if I hadn't met Scott and I didn't have kids, I probably would be single right now, because I just love to work.
Okay.
And I think that's really hurt me, because it stopped me from growing in a lot of ways that I could, and I could have been a better leader. I can be a better leader.
Right.
So I'd say that's really it, honestly.
There's no doubt you're not the only one in that struggle. I'm in that same struggle that you're in. I mean, I feel I got to provide, there's times where I'm listening to some of these people, or I even said to my wife recently, I said, hey, it's probably going to be slow. This could go on for a couple of years, but I do know this. I've been doing this long enough. that the reality is it's going to, weed out a lot of just people that were just here for the money. They're going to be out of it. That when all of a sudden it breaks through on the other side, we're going to be running, and we're going to be working like crazy, because that's the way we are. We know it's feast or famine.
Yep. And
so we got to go get, pick the fruit when it's there. Right now, there's a little less fruit on the tree for multiple reasons. How long it's going to last? It's only a season. Now the season might be 2 years long, but it's a season.
It is a season.
And we need to work on ourselves. And in this case, I'm right with you. I said, we need to take some time, do the travels that we wanted to do and take the kids on, and take advantage of it, because both of us have that mindset that when we break through the other side, we're going to be running crazy like we have been for the last, 18, 24 months, and just grab. Then now's the time to hey, okay, we still want to improve ourselves, go to the Dams Ramsey, want to work on our skills. So when we break out the other side, we're ready to go. Yeah. But we also got to spend the time, and get caught up with the family.
Yep.
Because the beautiful thing about people who love you, they'll forgive and forget about what you did yesterday, because what you're providing today, and doing the things. So I'm with you. You're not the only one in that struggle. I want to. This is the last formal question. And let you go on a little bit of a sales pitch. So someone's listening. Why this is like your elevator speech.
Oh gosh.
Why should an agent maybe doesn't know anything about CrossView, right? Just knows you guys are growing. Say, hey, walks up to you at a social and said, hey, tell me about CrossView. Why should I come over there?
I'd say the biggest reason is because we care. It's not about the paycheck. It's going to come if you do the right thing. It's all about heart. If you want to grow, not just in real estate, but you want to grow financially, or your health, or whatever it is, that's our goal, is for you to be well-rounded. Even with your family, we want to include them. So we're not the brokerage to go to if all you care about is money. I mean, you need to want to make money, okay? So I don't want to get that wrong. But
it does make you go home. It makes eating dinner a little easier.
A little easier, keeping those lights on. But it really is. It's a family, and going back kind of to what I said at the very beginning about being bigger than Watson. Through the years, what I realized is you get so big, you can't be a family. And so I want to grow until we reach that point to where we can't be a family. And that's where I want to stop. So as soon as we get to where I don't know everybody and their spouses and their kids, and we can't do things together, then at that point we're big enough, in my opinion. So it's all about community. It's being able to make a career out of it. My dad is actually one of my agents as well. And, it's really fun working with him because I used to work under him at Primerica. And now he works for me. It's great. But really, it's looking for that family environment. It's not that, oh my gosh, this person's doing this and this person's doing that. It's how can we all grow? How can we be better? How can we just self-develop? How can we, at the end of the day, be proud of what we did, and we wake up and, we're proud of how we handled our customers. We talked them out of something, or, we got overpaid. We've given a customer back $1,000 because title overpaid us money. You know what that customer felt like? It wasn't even our customer. It was the other side of the deal.
Right.
They were like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that goes into your integrity statement that you have in your social media. Yeah.
So that's what it is. We're the family. Right. And
people are going to cheer you on. You're going to want to come to the office because people are going to, encourage you, and hopefully you're encouraging others. You're not competitors. You're collaborators. Really, that's, again, another common theme that a lot of the agents say. You're from what I'm reading from what you're saying is someone wants to come to the office because they want to hang out with like-minded people and positive people, and people who are going to encourage them in the endeavors and challenges that they have.
Well, and I will tell you, we do have competitive people. So we have a leaderboard, and you can compare yourself with phone calls you've made, hours you've worked, customers,
Right.
sales dollar.
Right.
And we actually have a TV. Hopefully my husband and his stepdad are hanging it right now. But it's a leaderboard that just rotates through all of that. So at any point in time, you can see where you stand, or they can log into their system and
Right.
see it.
Well,
So,
yeah, it's a sales organization, so you got to have it. Hey, there are some guys doing something. You might want to step up your game. There's something in the air that I lost my mind. But anyway, all right, let's go to our 2-minute warning questions. These are the last 2 informal questions. If you listen to all my podcasts, I ended this. This is this latest one I've been doing for a couple months now, because I think here in Northeast Florida, we sell lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think people come to Florida for a lifestyle. Now, there are people that moved in by corporations, because Jacksonville brings in, but they're excited about coming to Jacksonville and coming to Florida because they're looking for a community. We have so many different, whether you want to be over on the west side of there and have property, and run a horse, or you want to be out at the beach or somewhere in between, there's something for you here. You want to be a boater, you want to be a kayaker, hike trails, whatever it is that you like to do. What is the when you're not doing real estate, what is your favorite thing for you and your family to do here in Northeast Florida? What do you guys like to do?
Well, we have an acre and a half that's in town, which is great. And so we like to not leave. We are big kind of movie people, so we watch a lot of movies. When we go, we tend to like to do things where nobody's around, quiet, get away. I know, again, we're weird.
No, that's not weird at all. Trust me. Although my other 3 people in my immediate family, they like amusement parks.
Oh, we do love.
I only tolerate that to a certain level, and then I just want quiet. And so we were at Disney World this weekend, and we fortunately, my sister-in-law got a tour and everything. So the tour was over like 4:00, and I'm like, I'm ready to go back to the hotel. And they're like, my wife's like, yeah, go enjoy it. We're going to stay here till the fireworks at 9. Pick us up at 9:30. And I had no problem going back, taking a little nap, get something to eat, go down to the hot tub, relax at the hotel, all by myself. I had no problems with that.
We do love roller coasters. Our son's a little too small, so my husband and I actually just came back from Universal. We went without the kids so we could ride roller coasters for 2 days. But
leave the kids with grandma and grandpa, and then you guys went to the Universal. Cool.
But one thing that really is my de-stressor and what I love to do is puzzles. So my record is 40,230 pieces.
40,000 pieces. Wow.
How
long did that take you?
A year and a half. It was 6 feet tall and 22 feet long.
Oh my God. Where did you have a table for that?
Put it together in 10 sections.
Oh my goodness.
But that is my de-stressor. That's my.
I like puzzles that are about as big as the pieces are as big as the things on the back of the wall here. That's my level of that, because my eyes can't take that any longer. Like looking at it, going, oh, where's that pattern fit in there? All right, we're last question. Is it more important who you know or what you know and why?
It's neither. It's who knows you.
Ooh.
Because if you know somebody, I can know you, but do you know me? So what good does that do anything? So it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Because if they don't know you, they're not really feeding into your life. They're not making any impact in you whatsoever. And so many people are all about, well, I know so-and-so, and I know this person, I know that person. It's like, well, if you, do you have their phone number in your phone? Mm-hmm. If you called them, would they know who you are? So it's who knows you.
I like that. That's really deep. That's the first time on 102 episodes. I don't think I've asked it every time, but well over 90 times that everyone's actually come back with that. That 100%. Yeah. 100%. And to kind of tag on to that, I think, some of the themes with social media and building relationships, because we can't hang out with someone that much, is people do start to get to know you a little bit. They see what you're doing. They see your Universal. I was at Disney this weekend or whatever, and they do start to get to know you a little bit. And maybe, oh, hey, I like doing that too, and so forth. We're social media, but that's a really deep thought and something for everyone to really think about. Yeah, you may know somebody, but do they know you? Because I think that's one of my quests actually. I think a lot of people, I know for sure throughout life, and actually had a manager one time, both of us were big guys, and they're like, you have to realize when we walk into a room, people already like step back.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that we're actually just big teddy bears and we give the shirt off our back for anyone, but our mere presence puts the average person in a defensive position.
Exactly.
Sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Very interesting. I love it. Thank you for coming on, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. So anyway, obviously Jennifer's all over social media. Reach out to her event November 5th. Hopefully, is that going to be on schedule?
For sure. It's
100%. You're going to work 24/7 to make sure it's open on the 5th.
Yeah. 10 to 2. Food trucks, face painting, DJ. We've got an obstacle course. We've got some vendors that are going to be there. Mm-hmm. It should be a fun time for all.
Excellent. We'll see you on November 5th.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.